It's Monday, what is it, February 8th. It's the memory group meeting. There's a few non-verbalized topics in there. And the first thing on the agenda item is the build board. So starting from right to left, who is at the top? It is Nicola. Or do we go through the closed items? I haven't quite gotten in the muscle memory.
I think we should do it, to be honest, because sometimes like we just move it or it gets automatically closed through like an MR or something, and then we kind of miss, talking about that it was done.
Right.
Also, a soft thing that I like is we have 5 closed issues for a week. It seems like a good amount of work. I think it's also a time to kind of celebrate when certain things that were difficult or long running actually get closed. So I like going through them.
All right. Lexi, you got the first one. No, he's not on. Well, we can read through the titles. Looks like Alexi closed out fixing Prometheus metrics in Puma single mode. And Camille and Alexi have the next two. Neither of them are on. So feature flags, Camille closed that one out. Looks like running Puma in a single mode on a constrained environment is out.
So does that mean that the Puma implementation, for single mode, is actually finished?
I don't know, to be honest. I'm not totally convinced this is really all done, because remember our discussion from last week where we basically said, well, we're not actually doing it. We're just like writing up some docs, telling people like what's broken if you do it. So I'm not totally sure what's actually done.
Yeah. So that issue was closed because it was promoted to an epic to group the related work in. So.
Yes.
But I know that Alexei is working on fixing the readiness probe, which we use to check for if the server can take traffic. Ah, it's back. Hello.
Sorry, I decided to reboot my PC. So what was the question? What's the status of this epic? So
we were going through issues that were in the closed column, and this one was closed because it was promoted to an epic. So that's all we were clarifying. We can go through the individual work items as we go right to left on the board here. And I believe the same thing happened here on this one, right? Yeah, promoted.
Yeah, which by the way is a massive pet peeve of mine, because if we promote something, we shouldn't close and reopen. It generates so much confusion. But hey.
And then this one from Matthias.
Yeah, I need to remind myself what that was. Sometimes I get to, that's the automatic. Can you open it? Sorry.
Yeah.
Right. So I think we had, So I think initially we had talked about basically running a GC cycle as part of this metrics endpoint that we added initially. And Camille had suggested to, it's just like a little bit cleaner to split this out because it's basically a side effecting operation rather than just fetching data, which is a good point. So I think that is basically this issue was to add this separate endpoint. So yeah, that's done. I thought I closed it a while ago. That must have been like 2 or 3 weeks ago. I don't think it's
Sorry,
unless we close out or get rid of the active label, it's going to remain in that column. So.
Oh, got it. Okay.
But why do you say it's closed? Because it was promoted. It's an actual closed issue, at least from what I see on the board.
So when you promote an issue to an epic, all it does is close the original issue and create a new epic. And
but there is also a closed issue with the same name.
Oh, there you go. This one?
It's called Fix Prometheus Metrics in Puma single mode.
We were talking about this one.
And where did you see that? Sorry.
It's right here. So we're looking at the close column. We started going through all of these while you were rebooting.
Okay. Sorry.
But it's gone. You want to talk through the first one here?
No.
All right.
It is
Definitely
done, right?
not going to talk about that.
I think Alexei, because you were a gun for a second when the question came up. We weren't quite sure which of these, because some of these issues got simply promoted to epics. We weren't quite sure which ones were actually like done, actually solved.
No, okay,
and I
okay.
think the metrics one is solved, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'll clear
Yes.
out this column after the meeting today, and we're on to work and review. Nicola, you first.
Okay, this one was reviewed by Camille. Maybe he can like add a comment about it, but I'm not really sure, like, should we close it? Should we like wait for all other work to be done and then give it to some other folks for review? Because this is a POC, so I'm not really sure what we should do about it.
What was the outcome?
Well,
Was
we
it-
provided a mechanism to load and it's working. Currently, we are like taking measurements and measurements are showing at the moment a good numbers, but this is the separate issue about the measuring. And I created another issue where I will be adding controllers and the Grape API to this web engine as well, so we can see how big impact it will have to the memory and performance. So I'm not sure, like this should stay probably like that MR, that POC that I created should probably be given to somebody else to take a look alongside with the blueprint.
Yeah, I was thinking, I thought we had landed on basically saying that this issue, we can consider this done along with the POC being done. And then we can follow up from this with an architectural blueprint that we can just float with
I agree.
yeah, other engineers to get feedback, because it is a pretty big change. Yeah, and then go from there. Because I don't know, but I guess we can't just like merge that MR without getting broader feedback, I guess.
Yeah.
My question is, and like this is maybe my own ignorance. So not merging the POC is one thing, but is there something to document here, right? In documentation saying, hey, we are working on this, we have this POC, this is how you use it, right? And these are the next steps. Because I think at the moment, this is all in the issue description.
I think it's the architectural blueprint that we should work on, because that is the agreed on format to kind of propose these really like big sweeping changes. And there's like a separate Slack channel even around this. I don't think I haven't done it before. And maybe Camille has, but there's guidelines. We have some documentation around how this architectural, I think it's the handbook, how the process works. So maybe we can just go through that.
That sounds good.
Yeah, I don't know. Do we have an issue for this already? Maybe we need to create one.
No, check the epic. I created some. Maybe I can update and create a separate one. But it's mentioning the blueprint and there. But before we like promote that blueprint, we want to like have some numbers. I finished some measurement, but Camille suggested that we should also move controllers and Grape and see how big impact it can be before like moving forward. So
yeah, and about the blueprint, I would also I'm thinking we should probably also kind of position this in the way that we make it very clear that this is not going to fix everything, right? Because I remember like we have gotten a few comments already that were kind of saying, yeah, but like this isn't going to work with X or Y, and like the coupling is still too strong in the application. But I feel like we need to kind of start somewhere, right? So maybe if we just position it to be a like very focused change that really focuses on just particular dependencies.
Well, I think that's why it's important first to prove that this will have a memory impact to the application, and it will allow us to decouple it. And then if the numbers are good and we have justified like the effort, then we can work like through, moving like and splitting the whole application will have definitely some problems and we will need to decouple some things, but we don't need, in order to have immediate impact, we don't need to move everything. Like,
so question, would the sorry, jumping back to this one. Would the architectural blueprint be specifically focused on this, on loading GraphQL, or is what we're talking about in this issue a subset of the already created blueprint for composable code bases?
GraphQL is just example how to do it. So the blueprint is more related to like splitting application to more composable code base.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then we do already have a draft of a blueprint for the composable code bases. Okay.
We did, Camille created it, yeah.
Right. So then the outcome for this one is done, and maybe there just needs to be a specific call out on either this issue, which maybe it's covered already here, or just basically drawing the line between this issue and this blueprint is probably the only thing that needs to be tied up before this issue can be closed.
Yes, so Camille actually did the review of it. So I would just like to hear from him. Is it enough? Should we give it to somebody else as well to do a review? Is Camille online?
Do you want to comment on that with your questions then, Nicola, before it gets closed? So just comment on this issue and what the next steps.
I will.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yes, so Nicola, like if you could comment.
He's here.
I think that I'm happy on closing this issue, but because I think that like you achieved the goal stated, because like we have a way to measure that, and it seems like to be very beneficial. And I was actually looking that, yes, this is like one of the examples of this split for the GraphQL for the composable code bases. I'm just now thinking like what would be the next step of that, because it seems to have like a very long-standing benefits, but it's also pretty severe change. And I guess I need to finish my blueprint. Like you need to post me like more like metrics and data on like how beneficial is this split, and then like we could we very likely need like to reach to the wider audience, like that. Take a look at that. These are the important pieces. If you could like also like comment each individual commit, like what it brings, we could maybe then like involve maybe like 2 or 3 people like with the staff plus to give them to look at that and get their thoughts on that approach. I mean, in general, in this direction, because at least from the memory perspective, I mean, I just saw like 70 megabytes less on the side key just right away on just that alone, and
just with GraphQL removal, yes.
And like and this is why I ask also about this API, because like the API would be probably the next item that I would try to replicate. It's exactly the same behavior, and I would expect that API gonna free us another 70 megabytes or 60 megabytes. I don't know, but this would be my expectation. So. I guess it's good that we have these proof of concept showing exactly how it could look. It's gonna be heavy undertaking to get it done, slightly maybe in different like steps than like you proposed. But I think like it's good if we could just summarize that right now, basically. Put that characterization of this POC into Blueprint, provide data, and start basically talking like with a bunch of people. I think also with the Christopher, VP of Engineering, about the benefits of doing that. Because if you would do it, it would be pretty severe and pretty wide company change on how we do stuff.
Yeah. Cool. I will focus, like I already started moving controllers and Grape API to this engine. I will create separate PLC for that and probably measure it. So I will constrain myself in the next few days. I expect even the changes I'll be done today or tomorrow with moving all of that without fixing the specs. So I think that we will have some numbers this week. So I will update all the issues and measurement results so we can like provide that info for the blueprint and for the wider audience. Yeah.
Okay, so I guess my suggestion gonna be like, let's focus on Friday on closing this issue with the metrics, summary, and everything basically. Is it okay?
Yeah, sounds good.
Oh, let's see, Grant, you have the next one. Measuring impact of Ruby 2.7.
Yeah, I need to figure out what we're going to do next. I think I'm going to close that issue this week. I meant it last week, but too many spinning plates, sorry. But I'll close it this week and raise an issue about the memory usage increase in for certain endpoints that seems to have occurred since. Well, technically, it's from 13.5 through to 13. It was a 13.8 nightly. So annoyingly, these things. It wasn't Ruby that changed the memory usage. Unlikely, but we still need to raise the issue and investigate. So, I guess the one thing I didn't know is, does that get raised against this team, or should I raise it against these particular endpoints that I think saw?
Yeah,
there might be, if
I
there's a
was
pattern.
actually,
I don't
I was-
know. I need to see if it's all if the endpoints are all kind of similar. If not, then it's a more vague issue.
I would suggest to file issues for slow endpoints that we have, because I mean, we're not going to revert back to Ruby 2.3, right? I assume. So even if we would find like slight memory elevation on some of these endpoints, we would probably look anyway at like why these endpoints consume so much memory. And I've seen this like in my testing as well, that there's a couple endpoints that just regularly in the GPT runs consume hundreds of megabytes more memory than others. And some of that memory sticks, which is also something I'm looking into right now. I'm not totally sure yet why. So it's like never be free again. So I think we should maybe at this point focus more on the individual kind of outliers that cause problems, because they might also have knock-on effects on all the other endpoints. If that if that introduces like heft to the memory footprint that's just not going away again.
So the one grace is that they didn't. They seem to clean up quite quickly after. It's literally a spike in memory, and then it goes back down to where it was. So it's nothing super concerning. There's no continuous grab in memory, but it's still worth investigating. So I'll close this issue and I'll look at the data again and see if there's anything obvious there. If it's clearly all plan endpoints, there must be something weird there with the database or something. Then fair enough. But if not, I'll get back to you.
Answer your
I agree with
first
that.
question, Grant. I would assign them to the teams first, and then if they get stuck, then we can consult.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, this is the problem with the name of this team. Once again, it keeps going. I was like, oh, it's a memory issue. Oh, there.
Yeah.
We've got a
Throw
memory
it over
team,
the
right?
wall.
There we
Yep.
go. There's a tag of memory in the tags. Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Perfect. But incorrect.
There's no risk associated with very like unspecific naming, right? It's like
Yeah. No, that's
No,
fine.
but
Yeah. And you go, Fabian.
Oh no, like I agree. I think you can actually actively point out that if people have trouble understanding why that is the case, they can reach out to the team and we can consult. I think that's definitely fair game. But I also believe that people need to be aware how their own stuff behaves and be interested in fixing it. So I would also give the context that how that is detrimental to large installations and so on and so forth, because otherwise I think people will put it on a pile and they will sit there for a long time.
Yeah, agreed. That's grand. Thanks for that.
All right, Matthias.
So we did a lot there. So this resulted in a ton of MRs, like a dozen or so. I would call it done by now. There is like there's one thing that has kind of been like itching me, which was that on SASS, we don't really run GitLab exporter in the way we like run it in Omnibus, right? Because we use it in like some special like circumstances to measure very specific parts of GitLab, like our database cluster for like table sizes and stuff. So a lot of these optimizations that we made, they will be part of 13.9, but we didn't really have a chance to validate them on SASS. So one thing I was hoping was, before we really close this out, is to at least update one of these instances in production for .com. We can't update all of them because some of them, it doesn't matter, but like, yeah, so at least update one of them to actually see memory use go down if we can, and also to like test the new Ruby probe that will be emitting new GC metrics for GitLab Exporter itself in production. So that's the last thing I was hoping to do. Like I opened an MR against the chef cookbooks that should be doing that, but I'm kind of like stumbling in the dark there a little bit because I haven't really done that before. So I just opened that this morning, and I just copied Ben because usually he knows his way around the run books, so the cookbooks. So let's just see what falls out of that. I still think, to be honest, we can call this done, even if that should not land, because it is a bit of a risky update because it bumps the Ruby version from 2.3 to 2.7 as well. And I have no idea how to test any of these like run books that run on VMs that are custom manually applied to VMs. So yeah, I don't know. Like I feel like honestly we can close it because all the material improvements they will be in 30.9 and they will go out with 30.9. So because like the reasons we cannot easily update GitLab Exporter on prod are kind of like orthogonal to this problem a bit. So I think it should be okay, but I don't know, like if Camille has an opinion on this.
Is GitLab Exporter part of the CNG?
Yes, it is.
Can you create issue for the infrastructure team to roll out that via CNG?
So I made all the changes in CNG. So whatever is deployed from CNG should be updated.
Yes, but I'm kind of suggesting like if we can create the issue for the infrastructure team to not do a manual deployment, but rather use the CNG for the GitLab exporter.
You mean to fix this problem that it pins these versions manually in the artifact download, or?
Because like from what I understand, you are saying that we have some manual way of running GitLab exporter in the production right now.
Yes, this is because like our Postgres cluster is not deployed from CNG. It's VMs, and they just run a chef control loop that applies like custom chef rules.
So my suggestion would be to open the issue for the infrastructure team to migrate from this manual deployment to using...
Oh, I'm sure that's on their to-do list, but like I don't think we should be waiting for that. I mean, I have no idea how far away that is, to be honest. I don't think that should block this issue, to be honest.
I would just close this issue, to be honest. And
yeah,
like,
that's what I was trying to say.
And like have this follow-up be assigned to the relevant team too.
Yeah. By the way, there is already there is an issue open already, which is kind of stating this problem of that we like hard code these version strings in download URLs, which is probably just not. I don't think that's like how versioning is supposed to work in Chef anyway. So there's an issue open for this anyway. I don't know if like anyone is working on this in infrastructure. But yeah, I would also lean to like closing this one out because all the work on GitLab Exporter itself is done. There's like these like few weird like paths in production where it's not deployed yet.
I'm kind of thinking that like from our perspective, we should support only two ways of running, which is CNG or Omnibus. If there is some other way of running stuff, we should create an issue for the respective team to align with that way of running stuff.
I mean, I would be very surprised if they're not aware. I mean, I know that Ben is very aware of this. It's just, I think it just takes a long time to move everything over to charts. And yeah, I don't know.
So are Camille's concerns called out in one of these issues? Because we have this epic.
It wouldn't be on our issue tracker. It would be an infrastructure ticket because it's not really related to the software web per se. It's like, yes.
So my two cents are, let's just close it. Make sure there is the follow-up. Because otherwise we're going to like add more stuff to it, and it's never going to like actually close.
Okay, I can double check if that's. I can check if it's a no. I'm pretty sure they're aware, but I'll double check.
Yeah, and then the second thing is, given that we have a significant reduction in memory here, and this is a cool thing that we accomplished, I would be in favor of writing a release post item for that.
Yes, I summarized some of the numbers in this issue. I think I copied it in the description as well.
Because I think it would be really nice to just say, hey, we updated GitLab Exporter. It will consume, 67, 70 MB, less megabytes. We're continuing to work on making GitLab more efficient. I think that's a great result. We should add that to the release post, unless somebody objects. Good, cool. I'll do that. I'll ping you for review on it, Matthias.
So Matthias, I guess like from my angle, I would really ensure that there is actually an issue on the infra to migrate it to CNG.
Yep, I'll make sure there will be.
And I would likely not spend more time on like aligning these variables and upgrading GitLab exporter from our side.
Yeah, okay. All right, got it.
Cool. See this next one, optimize Gitly Ruby settings. That was something Camille wrote, and there's not much on here. It's in review. There's no linked MRs. So Camille, what's going on with this one?
I just created another low-hanging fruit following our pure work on the like all other aspects that we actually run 2 additional Ruby processes with Gitali right now. It's less and less used, but maybe the low-hanging fruit is basically configuring malloc conf that we know that it's beneficial for reducing memory usage, basically for this process.
Gotcha. So does it need to be ready for development rather than in review so that someone can pick it up?
I think like the question to the team, like, do you agree with that? Because if you agree, we would make it ready for development. If you don't agree, we would continue discussing that.
I think we should do it.
I'm kind of saying that this is more like in the context of like this small constraint installation. So it could be as well be a documentation change and one of the aspects that we configure for the memory constraint. But it would save a few megabytes as well. So,
I mean, is this a good candidate for the validation board? Because I don't have a good grip right now on like how much that would save us. But I agree with Camille. Like if it is kind of similar to the purely the tuning aspects of what we did with GitLab Exporter, not so much going into the app itself, just like tuning GC.
I would likely not spend time on tuning GC. I would just set this malloc conf, to be honest. This is something that we saw that brings like the most benefits, and GC tuning is slightly harder like to conduct, so it takes significantly longer as well.
I just think the labeling is not quite.
Probably should have been validation to Matthias' point. And if it sounds like we're in agreement to get this done, so move it back to ready for development. All right. All right, Alexi, unblocked for Nakayosha fork.
Yeah, I was on the fence how to mark it, but I marked it blocked because it's currently on verification for non-prod environments. John merged his merge request on our Kubernetes cluster to run this Nakayoshi after the latest fix by Stan. So it's currently no action needed from our side, just to sit there and observe for some time, and then to merge it to the production canary first. And after that, I have a couple of remarks prepared to apply this to CNG, Helm, and Omnibus, and GDK, and so on. So just blocked from our perspective as a team.
On to in development. So Matthias, you're up.
Yeah, that's the GC tuning story for Rails, basically. So yeah, I mean, I'm finding out new things, but it's really hard to really put like, to really get memory use down just purely by kind of tightening the screws, right? Because it will immediately mean that latencies go up if you do it in a way that actually has significant impact. So what Camille said as well is we might have to pair this up with some more like tangible improvements to like memory use elsewhere in the app, like some of these endpoints that consume like, a few hundred extra megabytes compared to others where memory doesn't fully come down again. So I think these are the things maybe we should look at rather than this kind of broad, this like broad tuning of this. There's like a couple of things I don't understand yet. I posted a couple questions or like suggestions for what next to look at in the issue. But I just wanted to talk through it with the team, but maybe not now, but maybe when yeah, when we all can get together again with like ideas for how to go from here. Because yeah, like I think just purely experimenting with Ruby GC settings, it's not going to help. Is the problem.
Thanks. Next one's Camille, and looks like you already commented in the agenda. He needs some help and validation on this one.
So like everything is merged except Omnibus and CNG change. I just need some help running QA on staging when it lands, to be honest. We've been running on the CI for a couple of days already. I don't foresee any like problems with that, but extra eyes would be useful on that. And it was actually a question specifically to Grant. Can you help me like on if it lands on staging, ensure that it's green on staging, that we can run GPT fully?
There's a few parts to that question there. Can you just ask me again the whole question just to make sure I understood?
So, okay, there is a change in the Ruby that impacts the internals of the Ruby.
Yep.
Like we've been testing that on so many different layers right now that it seems safe, but we may need to perform some extra validation on staging to ensure that still everything is safe before it lands production. And my question here is like, is running GPT or like QA our way of ensuring that, or do you foresee something different?
So QA is run quite regularly against staging. Whether they will pick up any kind of guttural low-level memory stuff changed in Ruby, probably not. GPT isn't run against staging. There's a whole bunch of reasons why we don't do this, but one being it's got rate limits on it, it's used for many things, and it's a busy environment, and performance testing against it would be pretty useless because the data would always be different. We do have our own test environments that we performance test daily. That would probably be more of a better candidate here to test changes in a more of a lab-like setting. But then the counter to that, of course, is that you want to test it on an environment that's more closest to .com, which again would be staging. So it's a kind of a two sides to the same coin kind of issue. I think the only way we could really test this on our environments, though, yeah.
So, like to give you a few indicators, like I don't expect any change in the performance nor memory.
Okay.
It should be zero cost basically in the way how it's done. It's more like ensuring if there are some edge cases that we may not like tested, because like we are running that as part of the CI, which is our spec. It would run in slightly different environment and staging, more like the multi-threaded. I don't really see like from my testing there to be something wrong. So what I'm more like asking, what another test we could perform that would build more confidence before it runs production.
I'll need to read the issue in detail and get back to you. I've got it open here. I see you've linked me to it, so I'll read through it. I'll try and read through it today and try and get some specific examples to you, hopefully to try and drive those edge cases. But yeah, sounds like a difficult one. We'll see.
Yes, I mean the difficult one for me because it's like it's a change in the Ruby internals basically. So I unassigned Craig.
I was just going to say your face disappeared off that one. Sorry.
Is it? Are the changes already live on staging?
No.
No.
I actually posted a comment that I consider this to be safe to be merged. Feel free to agree or disagree on that comment. But I also asked there specifically what we can do to ensure our confidence when it lands on staging, that it's safe.
Okay. I mean, I think we do run a lot of QA, like main functional QA testing against staging. I imagine the solution would be just something along those lines of enable it and then see how those tests. We don't have to do anything. They just, you know, everyone's staging gets tested constantly through different MRs and.
Okay, so I think like my perception, it would be enough to ensure that we run all the tests that we can run against staging when it runs, and we ensure that it actually run and succeed.
Yeah, well, they might fail, but that's because staging is quite a busy environment and a lot of things change. But they might fail in the same way exactly they failed in the past. So that's essentially a pass because nothing's changed. So, yeah, leave it with me. I'll have a look. I'll see if there's anything extra needed. But from the sense of it, you just want to have confidence. So the standard testing and staging with the functionality enabled should be enough. But I'll read the issue and I'll get back to you on it.
All right, let's jump over to this next one real quick. So Camille, you're unassigning and trying to move away from some of this feature flag work. Should we find another team for this?
I think it's still part of the working group discussion. So I think you can as well just remove memory from, because it's actually, I think, part of the working group right now.
Yes. All right, done. Alexi,
Yeah,
the next couple.
I would like to ask for a bit attention to this issue. Could you please open the epic, which is related to this issue? So I'm trying to understand where to draw a line here, because like we merged this fix for metrics, and we still have many issues. Which of them we could either fix or document. So I wonder what is our priority. Today I tried to fix readiness probe because it seems like a simple task and it's something we could do in a small amount of code, but I got immediately like counted in our callbacks structure, which acts a bit different in single mode. So I opened another issue to rework lifecycle callbacks to be more explicit, but I wonder if it's our priority or not at all. So should we put this work into backlog or should we do it now? So
Camille, the readiness probe, this only runs in Kubernetes, right? We don't use this outside of
sort of.
Kubernetes
I don't know.
Right?
It was mentioned for Kubernetes, yeah. But I thought it just would be a small, simple fix, and I thought it would be simple, and I found that our lifecycle events is a mess.
Right, I'm just saying, like, if we're looking for shortcuts, then we could say, because this is supposed to improve the small nodes, right? If it's part of the 2 GB work, we're kind of mostly aiming at the smaller nodes. Then maybe we can get away without using readiness. So I don't know if self-monitoring, I would maybe find out if self-monitoring queries readiness or if it just queries health. Because maybe the endpoint is unused on these like super small deployments. I don't know, but it could be the case, and then maybe we can just document this as another thing. Like you can't use Puma single.
Yeah, I would still probably appreciate your opinion. Either should I work on any of those issues now, or should I just wait for the documentation to appear? It's assigned to Camille, I believe, and then to contribute to everything related to Puma single into it, and that's it, and just move away from Puma single. So what's our kind of focus here?
So I have an opinion on this, but I may rely on people to tell me if I'm out of line here. So my first question is the following statement correct? You can use Puma single right now if you enable it, but certain things will break. That is where we are at, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And using Puma single, we have data to show that reduces memory usage significantly on small instances. That's also correct.
Yes.
Okay. So my 2 cents would be, I would probably stop working on these things and focus on documentation, because like I would say this is something, as far as I know, people will only do in very small instances. And as long as we highlight the shortcomings of this, there's nothing in here, where we feel this is fundamentally going to break running GitLab on, let's say, a Raspberry Pi or similar. I think that's sufficient, right? It's very minimal. right? It's the first iteration. We could do more in the future, but I think it's sufficient for now. And I would just move on and say, like, we've done this, right? If people fundamentally care, we can reprioritize that when we get there. So that's my maybe more radical stance. I have one other thing that Camille, I think, highlighted a week ago or a couple of weeks ago. If there are any issues here, right, that are relatively like easy to do, you know, at least we think, and you are already in this context of work, right? As in, if you just sat down for a day, you know, then probably, you know, like some of these things would be fine, right? It's maybe worth doing just because we are already in this area. But if you start, and I think this is how I understood you, it's like you started looking at readiness probe, you thought it was easy, but it actually turns out being hard, right? I would move on, right? I think the most important thing here is to document the shortcomings and say, this is what this will mean for you, right? Because some people may just care, right? And we have these issues, we have these shortcomings. If people are really worried about them, we can, like they can contribute and we can do it. But I worry that otherwise we'll spend a lot of time making this perfect, even though it's not necessary. That's my my perspective.
Yeah, I think I agree with this. I would say though, if we document this, let's make sure we really understand like how it's breaking, because some of these issues, like they're currently stated in a way like very matter of factly, right? So like fixed readiness probe, but I feel like we don't even understand fully when the word readiness probe is used, right? So I think we should maybe focus a bit more on like the circumstances under which certain things will break and make it very clear in the documentation,
But
rather than
it's
focusing so
kind
much
of
on
tricky.
the implementation.
It would also take a lot of time, in my opinion, because I don't know how to investigate when the readiness probe is used, because it's going into use cases, right, of environments, of how
Yes.
the GitLab is used. And the only thing I see documentation on the health checks itself, where it states that you could use it. That's it. Like to understand if the workers are ready to serve the application. So I don't know how we could find this actual, you know, use case for readiness.
Yeah, maybe we can catch up after this. I have a couple ideas.
Yeah, and one more question. We have the issue assigned to Camille, I believe, right? To start this documentation. Is it in the works, or because I feel like I'm a bit of blocked by this issue because I wanted to add into it, or maybe I should assign it to me, and so on.
I did not yet start this documentation, to be honest. That's my challenge. So I think we are at the point that we may just start, or like you can start that and I can contribute next.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
A few thoughts about the readiness probes. Like it's being used basically when you have multiple instances of the application running for the load balancer to discover that your application is up. That's the primary purpose of the readiness probe. And it's pretty common right now to configure readiness probe to actually know if application is running. So you may run Puma single, let's say, in the CNG, for example, but there is always going to be readiness probe in front being checked by the load balancer to understand if you can truly run, if this application is truly ready to accept requests. But Alexi, like there is probably a very simple solution for that problem that you are having.
I just write if single mod true, for example.
I mean, don't run master check. Don't run master check if you are not running in the clustered mode. It doesn't make sense.
In single mode, you mean?
Sorry, like yeah. So run master check if you are running in the clustered mode. But if you don't run in the cluster mode, don't run master check. Because it doesn't make sense there.
Why? Then readiness probe will be just empty, right? Because there is nothing.
It will be empty, but it will be successful.
Okay, I'm gonna interrupt here. So we're running low on time. I'd say take that one asynchronously, or you guys can follow up in the meeting. We got to get through this. I will say I will follow up with an async conversation on the 1310 planning along the same lines of what we were just talking about. Like, what are the major efforts that remain? Because we had a goal of wrapping up the running GitLab in a memory constrained environment by the end of 1310. So in that issue, I will know what major efforts remain and what low hanging fruit should we wrap up while we're still in the context. So we're gonna have to run through the board real quick, and any in-depth conversations will have to take async in the interest of time. So Alexi, you are up next on this one, enabling Puma by default.
The decision is to update documentation for this environments, but this is blocked by Ash having issues on M1 MacBook. So I don't know how to continue with that because I don't have M1. And he has issue running it on single mode exclusively on his machine. So I'm trying to understand.
Right. Nicola, you have the next couple.
Sorry, I was just about to suggest, can we just say we're not running it by default and close that issue? Because there's really no reason to. I'm actually feel kind of like we shouldn't do that anyway, because
the action point was to update documentation to show the possibility to do that.
Yeah, but then we can just say it doesn't work on M1s. I don't think we should be blocked on this, because if it works on every other Mac and every other Linux and other Sun, then I think that maybe it's just good enough, right?
But I just said I'm not sure it's M1. I'm just have a report from Ash that it's not working on his machine. I checked it; it's working on my machine. So
right, but I'm just wondering, does that mean we're blocked on it? Because I feel like, yeah, I mean there will always be problems with something, right?
Okay.
No.
I think there are like two items. Like this says single by default. We're not gonna run single by default for various reasons. So I'm just gonna change this issue to reflect exactly what we are doing. I'll run single, but not by default. And when we merge like these changes, we're just gonna close this issue.
Okay. Yeah, but still, I mean, we kind of blocked because we need to merge request, which is not working on Ash, who is maintainer on for these changes and author. So I would say we should not merge any code under this issue and just update documentation then to show the possibility to run it.
Sounds like a good plan. I mean, if Ash can't make it work, just say here, you know, like this is how you can do it. We haven't been able to make it work on an M1. I think that's fair.
Do we just need to have a maintainer validate on a non-M1 machine, like maybe have Matthias validate it?
Well, I don't have a Mac. It's a Mac problem, right?
I mean, like Scalaway recently introduced M1 Max. I think what else? AWS has M1 as well. So maybe we could use something in the cloud.
Oh, really? You can. Oh, that's cool. I didn't know they had that.
But also, I don't mean that in any disparaging way. I think this is probably, you know, something that is not that important right now. Right? It's like we can probably go and leave it up to Ash, and you know, otherwise move on.
Okay. Yeah, okay. I just didn't work on that. I just verified it works on my machine. I'm not saying I'm blocked. I'm saying just I didn't put any effort aside from verifying it works.
Okay.
Okay, I already talked about those two. I created this one, move controller and Grape to web engine. So I'm currently working on it. I will move like all controllers and whole Grape API the same way I did for GraphQL, but I will constrain myself, so I will not fix the specs. I will just do it so we can do the measurement. So I guess that measure performance will contain both results. I already measured the GraphQL and it's promising, but I didn't finish. Like there are also some other aspects that I would like to measure, but I will wait for this POC to be ready with the controllers and Grape API. So I will include all the results probably in the measurement issue there. So I hope that this will all be closed by the end of this week on Friday.
Okay.
Hopefully, if I don't encounter some problems, but for now it looks fine.
All right. Matthias?
Yeah,
the
this
last
fell
one.
out of the action cable rollout. So that's kind of a working group issue. It's related to this investigation that's still sort of ongoing about like workers consuming a lot of memory. So one thing we found was that due to like a particular setting that the Go runtime uses, the memory it uses isn't actually the memory it uses. It just like looks like it's using a lot of memory, but it might actually be okay. It just caused a lot of confusion, and it also looks like it confuses the Kubernetes orchestrator because it monitors pod resources, and if it sees that a pod is consumed or breaching the resource threshold based on just RSS readings, like pod level, like machine level memory consumption, it will recycle the pod. So there's like this was one idea we had, was to change the behavior of how Golang advises the Linux kernel to allocate memory to its process, so that it will be closer. So the real usage will be much closer to what is reported through RSS. John merged DMR that changes the production workloads for staging and Canary. So that should go out soon. He said he had to follow up. Oh yeah, right. So he said by default, there's actually no staging is kind of not good for testing action cable anyway, because the scale is too small. And he said for some reason Canary is not receiving action cable traffic. I don't know why, to be honest, but he said he would follow up with an MR, but infrastructure will sort this out, that directs a certain percentage of traffic to Canary after this change goes live. And then we need to just go back and see. Actually, we can probably put that in review, right? Because the kind of the settings work is done. No, yeah, whatever. Like yeah, I actually leave it in in-depth. Sorry, because also because quite honestly, like if it doesn't work, we might have to go back and revert it. So that's kind of part of the issue, is to figure out do we want to make this change? Then we also need to enable it in for the whole production WebSockets fleet, because currently it's only for Canary and staging. So either way, there will be more work to do. Either turn it off again or expand it.
Okay. Thank you. So looking at ready for development, there's nothing new here. I assigned this one last week at Camille's request to him, so he would take a look at it when he has time. That's the planning issue. And I don't remember what the latest was on this one for.
I think we can actually close it. I updated it. I'll get to it this week.
Okay.
I promise. Can you quickly go to open? Because I think the documentation issue is in there. Yeah. So I suggest to put this on top of ready for development and unassign Camille. So whoever wants to work on documenting the settings for a memory constrained environments can start kicking that off, would be my suggestion.
Yep.
Cool. That's it. I know we're a little bit over time, but I wanted to make one quick comment, not regarding planning or anything up in the future, but I think this is actually really good to walk through the board and update all of these issues and see where we are at and flush out some of those questions. There's maybe some things we can do ahead of time and some that we can do async, but I do think this is really valuable because you can see how the board is not really reflecting reality. And then when you talk about it, it kind of does. And then you have this single source of truth where you can look. So I think the dynamic is good, but I think sometimes it's also a little bit challenging, right? Because it's not 100% clear, like where to go, what to do. So, I think that's fine. But I really enjoy this context and I hope you do too. I find it very useful, right? To see what's actually going on. Makes it a little bit clearer. Just a comment.
Agreed. I like this process too. And I think where we need to, we just call out asynchronous calls. So, but I do need to fall off. I will leave it open if other people want to carry on in this channel, however. So thanks everybody. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday.
Monday.
Bye. Happy Monday.